I'm in my zone.
Hey, this is Zero at ReviewZoneHD, and I'm bringing you guys a review for the Hitman HD Trilogy for the PlayStation 3, which released last Tuesday. And when you're reviewing a game that's already released many years ago, including a trilogy for the PC and PS2, and all of it's been reviewed 10 times over again, it makes it a little more difficult to write a fresh new review about it, especially when the only real noticeable improvement is the graphics have been enhanced and sharpened ever so slightly for 2 of the 3 titles. And I can't spend an entire review obviously just discussing the graphics. Now, for those that have never played any of these titles, the concept and the gameplay is simple. You're given a target or a set of targets with an occasional subtask such as obtaining an item, then you're dropped into a stage with a set of weapons and gear that you select, and you're just cut loose. There's no one there to hold your hand and point you in every direction. You're free to pick and choose your plan of attack as you see fit. One of the most rewarding parts of playing these titles is just figuring out the creative ways to off your targets, such as pouring a laxative into their food and then waiting for them to go to the bathroom to execute them in privacy. Now, one of my subscribers commented that the Hitman games are not shooters, but I would have to disagree. On normal difficulty, you can have a jolly good time blasting your way through the stages, as Agent 47 is more than capable of wiping out large groups of bad guys. But bump up the difficulty and the tables turn back into your enemy's favor, when just a few gunfights will have you hitting the dirt pretty quickly. While that's not the intended way to play, and any Hitman purist will call blasphemy at the idea of shooting your way through the stages because the focus here is on stealth gameplay, it is still definitely possible. It's also worth pointing out that all 3 titles can be played in first person with just the press of a button. Now, the difficulty aspect is one of my absolute favorite things about this entire series. If you want to just casually play through the game on normal, you're given an ample amount of mid-level saves to use as you see fit, which will allow even the worst of aimers to learn and play around on the stages. You can kick down the doors and blast up the place everywhere you go and have a pretty good time watching the ragdoll physics blow people all over the stage. It's pretty much just a practice mode for rookies or for those that want to walk around like they are the Terminator. And then once you figure everything out and actually want to challenge yourself, you can switch to the hardest setting with no saves and try to obtain that elusive silent assassin rating, which is awarded for very carefully only eliminating your targets with minimal collateral damage. Now, Hitman 2 Silent Assassin is easily the worst of this group because of its twitchy enemy AI and incredibly slow-paced gameplay. For a newcomer that's never played it when it first released, it can be brutal just trying to figure out the levels because you're forced to walk at a snail's pace around the guards, and the sneak walk is even slower. Luckily, you have some really killer tunes to listen to as you're playing, and the voice acting was great in all 3 titles. But Hitman 2 was the foot in the door that laid the groundwork for what was to come and showed how much fun sneaking around can be in this series. If you're able to stomach the awkward controls and slow pace, it's definitely worth playing through that title at least once just to experience the classic nostalgia and roots of this series. Now, during my first impressions video, I showed a couple examples of the guards in the first stage doing some sort of weird frozen animation with their arms straight out, and I stated I'd keep my eye out for that issue as I played along. Well, I'm happy to report that I only saw that happen once in another stage, so it's not a huge problem with the game, but you may see it happen once or twice as you're playing Hitman 2. As far as how Hitman Blood Money adds to this trilogy, it is a direct port of its Xbox 360 counterpart with nothing changed at all according to my source at Square Enix. Everything was kept intact, including the sound and the graphics, so don't expect to be blown away with any new overhauls or enhancements in the visuals, which if you don't own an Xbox 360 and you never got a chance to play this when it originally released, it is worth the budget $40 cost of admission just to pick this trilogy up and play that one regardless of how you feel about the other 2 titles. It is a next generation Hitman, and it's an absolute blast to play with creativity flowing through every level design and target. You also get to upgrade your weapons with attachments, so going back to some of the early levels with a decked out silent sniper rifle to perform that perfect hit is possible on this title. Now, the real gem of this trilogy in my opinion is going to be Hitman Contracts. It's much faster paced than Hitman 2. You can actually run around the stages without the guards freaking out, and a lot of gamers new to the Hitman series will be surprised at how intense this title is compared to even last year's Absolution. The enemy AI is surprisingly good, reacting to every move that you make in a more intelligent way. If you're in a disguise, you can walk past guards as long as you don't hang around them too long or act like you're up to something. If they catch you trying to pick a lock, pulling out a weapon and putting it back up, or doing anything else out of the ordinary, they are quick to open fire and call for backup. Now, the great thing about all 3 of these titles is you have so much control over every situation, and the fact that you can pick your loadouts before every mission and unlock new weapons to make your tasks even easier just screams for replaying through missions not just once or twice, but many, many times over again. Playing through any stage for the very first time can take upwards of 20 to 30 minutes on any one of the 3 games, not including any trial and error restarting, which you will be doing a lot of if you're playing for the first time. But in Contracts and Blood Money, the deaths never really felt frustrating. Everything was a learning experience, and any game overs were almost always a miscalculation or mistake on my part. Now, for you trophy hunters out there that enjoy the Hitman series, this is a dream come true. Finally, we can be rewarded for playing through each of these games, collecting every weapon, and racking in a silent assassin ranking on every stage. There is a platinum available for all 3 titles, and all 3 will require you to play on the hardest difficulty and most likely spend somewhere between 10 to 15 hours to platinum each one. All the trophies are pretty straightforward, and for a seasoned veteran of the series, you shouldn't have too much trouble obtaining all of them. Now, if you already own the PC or PS2 Hitman Trilogy that released back in 2007, then this slight improvement in graphics most likely wouldn't justify repurchasing the title all over again. These are very mellow and dull colored games, so the HD gloss over doesn't come through as well as a game that may use bright or vibrant colors. However, if you missed out on Blood Money or Contracts, and you're a fan of any of the Hitman games, then this is without a doubt a must-buy. None of these titles can be played online or in local co-op, but it's a very special experience learning and playing through each one of these titles. Anyways, this is Zero at ReviewZoneHD, and thanks for stopping by.